February 25, 1944, 22,000 feet above Gotha, Germany. The flak explodes so close that Second Lieutenant Harold Fisher feels the shockwave through his boots. Black smoke mushrooms across the sky, dozens of bursts, hundreds, filling the air around the B-17 bomber formation, with lethal shrapnel fragments moving at supersonic speed. Fisher grips the control yoke of his B-17G Flying Fortress, tail number 42 to 31,763, call sign All-American III. Around him, 35 other bombers from the 414th Bomb Squadron maintain formation, their silver fuselages glinting in the winter sun. Below, the German aircraft factory sprawls across the landscape, today's target. 300 workers inside producing Messerschmitt fighters. Intelligence says destroying it could shorten the war by months. But first they have to survive the flak. Bomb bay doors open, Fisher calls over the intercom. Behind him, Bombardier Lieutenant John Summers lies prone in the nose compartment, eye pressed to the Norden bomb site, the most sophisticated targeting computer in existence. $14,000 worth of gyroscopes and optics, designed to drop bombs within 100 feet of their target from 4 miles up. The B-17 shudders as the bomb bay doors swing wide. Wind screams through the fuselage. Temperature inside drops to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The 10 crew members are sealed in oxygen masks and electrically heated flight suits, but nothing stops the cold from seeping into your bones at 22,000 feet. Steady, Summers calls. Steady, steady. Another flak burst, this one closer. Fisher can hear shrapnel ping against the aluminum skin like deadly hail. Somewhere to his left, a B-17 takes a direct hit to the number 3 engine. The Wright R-1820 Cyclone, 1,200 horsepower radial engine, disintegrates in a shower of burning metal. The crippled bomber drops out of formation, trailing black smoke. Fisher doesn't watch it fall. Can't watch it fall. 10 men aboard that plane. 10 men who ate breakfast with him 6 hours ago. You learn not to watch the ones who don't make it home. Bombs away, Summers shouts. The B-17 lurches upward as 4,000 pounds of high explosive drops from the bay. 8 500-pound M64 general-purpose bombs, each one capable of cratering concrete and collapsing steel. Fisher can see them falling through the formation, tiny black cylinders tumbling toward the factory below. Then the world explodes. The flak shell detonates directly beneath the right wing, between the number 3 and number 4 engines. The blast is apocalyptic, a shaped charge of high explosive specifically designed to shred aircraft aluminum. Shrapnel tears through the wing like a shotgun blast through paper. The B-17 rolls violently right. Fisher fights the controls, but the yoke feels wrong, mushy, unresponsive. Warning lights flash across the instrument panel. Number 3 engine losing oil pressure. Number 4 engine overspeeding. And something else, something worse. Jesus Christ, co-pilot Lieutenant Robert Wentworth breathes, staring out the right window. Jesus Christ, skipper, look at the wing. Fisher leans forward and feels his stomach drop. The entire outboard section of the right wing, from the number 4 engine to the wingtip, is gone. Not damaged, not shredded. Gone. 11 feet of wing structure, fuel tanks, aileron controls, all of it sheared away by the flak burst. The ragged edge flutters in the 200-mile-per-hour slipstream, aluminum skin peeling back like torn paper. By every law of aerodynamics, by every principle of aircraft design, the B-17 should be spinning into an uncontrollable death spiral. A bomber needs both wings to fly. Lose one and centrifugal force rips you apart before you hit the ground. But somehow, impossibly, the B-17 is still flying. All stations, damage report. Fisher barks into the intercom, wrestling the yoke. The plane wants to roll right, wants to tumble into the smoking bomber graveyard 22,000 feet below. He's got the left aileron trimmed full up, left rudder jammed to the floor, and both hands white-knuckled on the yoke just to keep them level. The crew reports in. Ball turret gunner okay, tail gunner okay, waist gunners okay, radio operator okay. Everyone survived the blast, but that doesn't matter if Fisher can't keep this crippled bird in the air. Engineering station, Fisher, he calls. Henderson, I need you to get back to that wing and tell me how bad it is. Staff Sergeant Joe Henderson, flight engineer, top turret gunner, and the closest thing the crew has to an aircraft mechanic, keys his mic. On my way, Skipper. The impossible flight has begun. Staff Sergeant Joe Henderson crawls through the fuselage toward the right wing, and every instinct in his body screams that this airplane should already be in pieces. He's 24 years old. Before the war, he worked in his father's garage in Amarillo, Texas, fixing tractors, rebuilding truck engines, coaxing life from machinery that should have been scrap metal. The Army Air Forces saw his mechanical aptitude scores and made him a flight engineer. 6 months of training at WWII Field, learning every rivet and hydraulic line of the B-17 Flying Fortress. He knows this aircraft, knows that the wing structure relies on a main spar, a massive I-beam of aluminum alloy running from fuselage to wingtip. That spar carries all the wing's load, the lift keeping them airborne, the weight of engines and fuel, the stress of 200-mile-per-hour flight. Without it, the wing folds like cardboard, and they just lost 11 feet of that spar. Henderson reaches the crawlspace above the bomb bay and peers through the small window at the right wing. What he sees defies everything he learned at WWII Field. The wing ends in a ragged stump. The number 4 engine nacelle is completely gone. 1,200 horsepower engine, propeller, fuel lines, all of it sheared away. The number 3 engine, miraculously, is still attached and still running, but it's leaking oil badly. The entire outboard wing structure, ribs, stringers, control cables, all severed. And the main spar, Henderson's breath catches. The main spar is cracked, not severed but fractured through 80% of its cross-section. He can see the break clearly, a jagged crack running through the aluminum I-beam. The spar should have failed completely, should have snapped under the aerodynamic loads, but somehow it's holding. Barely. The remaining 20% of intact metal is carrying loads it was never designed to bear, and it won't hold much longer. Skipper, Henderson keys his mic, choosing words carefully. The crew is listening. Panic kills. The main spar is fractured. The wing is. It's hanging by a thread. We need to reduce airspeed immediately. And we cannot, I repeat, cannot make any sudden maneuvers. The wing will fold if we do. In the cockpit, Fisher absorbs this information while fighting the controls. Every muscle in his arms burns from the effort of keeping the asymmetric aircraft level. Henderson, can you do anything, any way to reinforce it? Henderson stares at the damaged wing. In a proper maintenance depot with hydraulic jacks, welding equipment, replacement parts, and a team of mechanics. Maybe. At 22,000 feet over Germany with enemy fighters hunting them and 400 miles of hostile territory between here and England. Negative, Skipper. This is beyond field repair. We need to get on the ground. Fast? Copy that. Fisher's voice remains steady, but Henderson can hear the tension underneath. Navigator, plot us the shortest course back to England. Lieutenant James Morrison's voice crackles over the intercom from the navigator's station. Shortest course is 470 miles, Skipper. Current heading 270. At cruise speed, that's 2 hours 15 minutes. 2 hours 15 minutes. With a wing that could fail any second. Reduce speed to 150 miles per hour, Fisher orders. Gentlemen, we're going to nurse her home. Nice and easy. Henderson, keep eyes on that wing. Any change, I want to know immediately. Roger, Skipper. Henderson positions himself where he can see both the damaged wing and the main cabin. The other crew members are watching him. He can feel their eyes. Ball turret gunner Danny Sullivan, barely 19 years old. Waist gunners Kowalski and Martinez, good men who have flown 23 missions together. Radio operator Pete Chen, whose parents fled China before the war. Tail gunner Red Thompson, who saved their lives over Schweinfurt by shooting down a pursuing FW-190. They're all looking at Henderson like he has answers, like he can fix this. He's a mechanic. He fixes things. But you can't fix a broken wing at 22,000 feet with nothing but hope and prayer. The B-17 drones westward, its asymmetric silhouette standing out against the bomber formation. Other crews can see the damage. Word spreads across the radio frequencies. The all-American WWII is flying on borrowed time, a physics-defying miracle that shouldn't exist. Below them, Germany slides past, farmland and forests, cities and rivers, every mile bringing them closer to safety. Every mile another chance for that fractured wing spar to finally give up. Henderson watches the crack. In the sub-zero temperature, he can see his breath fogging inside his oxygen mask. His hands are numb despite the heated gloves. But he doesn't move. Can't move. Because if that crack starts spreading, if that wing starts folding, he'll have maybe 3 seconds to warn the crew before the B-17 tears itself apart. So he watches. And prays to a God he's not sure he believes in anymore. Please, just get us home. 38 minutes into the flight home. 18,000 feet above the German-Belgian border. Fighters at 3 o'clock high. Top turret gunner Henderson swivels his twin .50 caliber machine guns toward the threat. 3 Focke-Wulf FW-190s diving out of the sun. The Luftwaffe's most feared fighter, 2,000 horsepower BMW radial engine pushing them to 400 miles per hour. Fast, deadly. And they've spotted the crippled B-17 struggling behind the formation. I see them, Fisher says calmly in the cockpit. Every instinct tells him to take evasive action, brake hard, dive, anything to throw off the fighter's aim. But Henderson's warning echoes in his mind. No sudden maneuvers. The wing will fold. They can't dodge, can't dive, can't do anything but fly straight and hope the gunners can drive off the attack. All gunners free fire, Fisher orders. The B-17 was designed as a flying fortress for exactly this reason. 13.50 caliber machine guns. 2 in the nose, 2 in the top turret, 2 in the ball turret, 2 in the waist, 2 in the tail, and 1 in the radio compartment. Overlapping fields of fire covering every approach angle. A bomber flying level in formation can put up a wall of lead that even the bravest Luftwaffe pilot respects. But all-American WWII isn't in formation anymore. She's lagging behind, wounded, alone. A straggler. And stragglers die. The FW-190s open fire at 800 yards. 20 cannon shells and 13 machine gun rounds streak through the air, bright tracers marking their path. Henderson sees them coming, tracks the lead fighter through his gun sight and squeezes the trigger. The twin 50s roar to life. 50 rounds per second per gun, 100 rounds per second total. The noise is deafening even through his leather helmet. Spent brass casings rain down through the fuselage. The whole aircraft vibrates with the recoil. His tracers converge on the lead FW-190. He sees impact sparks dancing across the fighter's cowling. The German pilot brakes left, trailing smoke. One down, damaged at least, but the other two keep coming. "Brace!" Wentworth shouts in the cockpit. The FW-190's cannon shells hammer into the B-17. One punches through the left horizontal stabilizer, leaving a dinner plate-sized hole. Another shatters the radio compartment window. A third, by sheer bad luck or good German marksmanship, hits the number 2 engine. The right cyclone explodes. 18 cylinders of aluminum and steel, spinning at 2,500 RPM, disintegrate in a shower of burning oil and torn metal. The propeller windmills free, its governing system destroyed. It spins faster and faster, overspeeding until the reduction gearbox literally tears itself apart. "Number 2 engine gone," Fisher calls, yanking the engine fire T-handle. Feathering prop. Fire suppression activated. Now they're down to 2 engines. Number 1 on the far left, number 3 on the damaged right wing. The B-17 was designed to fly on 2 engines, barely, but not with 11 feet of wing missing and a cracked main spar. The bomber slows. 150 miles per hour drops to 140, then 135. The nose wants to drop, but Fisher holds it up through sheer arm strength, trimming everything he can to compensate. "Henderson," Fisher's voice cuts through the chaos. "Wing status." Henderson tears his eyes from the fighters and looks at the damaged wing. The crack in the main spar has spread. He can see it clearly now. What was 20% intact metal is now maybe 15%. The wing is bending upward slightly, flexing under loads it was never meant to carry. "Spar is failing, skipper. We're losing it." In the tail, Red Thompson's guns track the third FW-190 as it makes another pass. The fighter comes in from 6 o'clock low, the tail gunner's domain. Thompson leads the target perfectly, fires a 3-second burst, and watches with grim satisfaction as his rounds stitch across the fighter's canopy. The FW-190 rolls inverted and dives away, smoke pouring from its engine. The remaining 2 German fighters break off. Maybe they're low on ammunition. Maybe they've decided this crippled bomber isn't worth the risk. Or maybe, Henderson likes to think, they're giving the doomed crew a soldier's mercy. A chance to die on their own terms rather than in a fireball of German cannon shells. The intercom crackles. "Fighters breaking off," Thompson reports. "We're clear, for now." Fisher checks his instruments. Airspeed, 135 miles per hour right at the edge of stall speed. Altitude, 17,000 feet and descending slowly despite full throttle on the 2 remaining engines. Heading, 270 degrees west. Distance to the English Channel, 240 miles. They've survived the fighters. But the wing is still failing, the spar is still cracking, and they still have 240 miles of Europe to cross before reaching safety. Henderson watches the crack spread another millimeter. "Just hold together, please. Just a little longer." 2 hours, 4 minutes into the flight, 12,000 feet above the English Channel. You're losing altitude at 50 feet per minute, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you're Harold Fisher, you've been flying this dying bomber for over 2 hours. Your arms feel like dead weight. Your shoulders scream. You've urinated in your flight suit because you can't leave the controls even for a second. The co-pilot, Wentworth, is physically holding the right aileron trim wheel in position because the cables are partially severed. but you can see England. Through the cockpit windscreen, past the spinning propeller of the #1 engine, across 30 miles of grey water, the white cliffs of Dover rise from the channel like a promise. Home, safety, land. Navigator, give me the nearest airfield, you order, voice hoarse from 2 hours of shouting over engine noise. Morrison's response comes immediately. He's been plotting emergency landing sites for the past hour. RAF Manston, skipper, 20 miles due west. Long runway, emergency equipment on standby. They're expecting us. Copy. Manston it is. Behind you in the fuselage, Henderson watches the wing spar with the intensity of a man defusing a bomb. Because that's essentially what he's doing, watching for the moment when the crack spreads far enough that physics wins and the wing folds. The crack is now through 90% of the spar's cross-section, maybe 95%. The remaining metal looks like a twisted piece of wire holding up a car, overloaded, overstressed, moments from failure. He can see the aluminum fibers separating, the crystalline structure of the alloy literally pulling apart at the molecular level. How it's still attached is beyond engineering. Beyond physics, it's pure miracle. Skipper Henderson, spar is at critical failure. Recommend wheels-up landing to minimize stress on touchdown. Fisher processes this. A wheels-up landing, belly landing, means less shock to the airframe. But it also means sliding across concrete at 100 miles per hour in a bomber full of volatile aviation fuel, ammunition, and oxygen bottles. If anything sparks, the whole aircraft becomes a crematorium. Negative, Fisher decides. We're putting the gear down. If that wing is going to fail, it's going to fail regardless. At least with wheels down we might walk away. Roger, skipper. The English coastline grows larger. The white cliffs resolve into detail. Grass on top, houses, roads. You've flown over these cliffs 37 times before, returning from 37 missions over Europe. You've seen them on clear days and through storms, in summer sunshine and winter darkness, but you've never been so grateful to see them as you are right now. Manston Tower, this is Army Air Forces Bomber 4231763, declaring emergency. We have severe structural damage, 2 engines out, and request immediate clearance for landing. The British controller's accent crackles back, clipped and professional. Roger, 763. You are cleared for straighten approach, runway 28. Emergency equipment is standing by. Godspeed, Yank. The B-17 crosses the coastline at 8,000 feet. Below, people stop and point. They can see the missing wing section even from the ground. Someone is probably already taking photographs. By tomorrow morning, this will be in every newspaper in England. If you survive the landing. Co-pilot, call out airspeed and altitude, Fisher orders. 120 knots, 5,000 feet, Wentworth responds. Henderson, final wing check. Henderson takes one last look at the spar. The crack hasn't spread further in the last 5 minutes. Maybe the reduced airspeed is helping. Maybe the spar has found some equilibrium point where the remaining metal can carry the load. Or maybe it's just waiting for the landing gear to extend before it snaps. Spar is holding, skipper, still critical but holding. Gear down. Wentworth reaches for the landing gear lever and hesitates. Skipper, if the wing fails when the gear extends, then we crash with the gear down instead of the gear up. Either way, we're committed. Gear down. Wentworth pulls the lever. Hydraulic pumps whine. The massive main landing gear assemblies unlock from their wheel wells and swing down into the slipstream. The additional drag causes the bomber to slow even further. The nose drops slightly. And most critically, the changing aerodynamic loads shift stress across the wing structure. Henderson watches the spar. The crack, The failing metal, it holds. Against all probability, against every principle of materials science, the fractured wing spar continues to bear the load. Gear down and locked, Wentworth reports, relief audible in his voice. 3 green lights. Ahead, RAF Manston's runway appears. 10,000 feet of concrete surrounded by emergency vehicles with flashing lights. All stations prepare for landing, Fisher announces. It's been an honor flying with you gentlemen. They're coming home. 2 hours, 18 minutes after the flak hit. RAF Manston, England. The B-17 crosses the runway threshold at 110 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour faster than normal landing speed, because Fisher doesn't trust the controls to hold together through a proper approach. Fire trucks pace them along the taxiway, foam cannons ready. Ambulances wait with rear doors open. 50 feet, Wentworth calls out. 40 feet, 30 feet. Fisher holds the nose up, bleeding off speed. The bomber settles toward the concrete, a 75,000-pound aircraft hanging together through determination and luck. 20 feet, 10 feet. The main gear touches concrete with a chirp of rubber. The B-17 bounces slightly, and Henderson's heart stops as the damaged wing flexes upward. The crack in the main spar spreads another inch. 2 inches, but it holds. The nose gear settles. Fisher chops the throttles on both remaining engines and stands on the brakes. The bomber decelerates down the runway, slowing, finally rolling to a stop 3,000 feet from the threshold. For a moment, nobody moves. Nobody speaks. The engines wind down with a descending whine. The propellers stop, and in the sudden silence 10 men realize they're alive. Engine shutdown checklist, Fisher says quietly, hands shaking on the controls. Let's do this by the book. They run through the checklist mechanically. Magnetos off, fuel selectors off, battery off, oxygen off. Every switch, every lever, every procedure exactly as trained. Because you don't survive an impossible flight just to die in a preventable fire on the ground. The crew exits through the waste door, climbing down onto English concrete. Henderson is last out, and he walks around to the damaged wing, needing to see it one final time. The wing ends in a ragged stump, severed metal, torn aluminum, the number 4 engine mounting just gone. And there, clearly visible in the afternoon light, is the main spar. The crack runs through 97% of the beam's cross-section. The remaining 3%, maybe the width of your thumb, held up an entire wing for over 2 hours. It shouldn't have worked. By every principle of engineering, that spar should have snapped. The wing should have folded. The bomber should have spun into the ground over Germany, killing all 10 crew members instantly. But it didn't. Henderson reaches out, touches the broken spar gently, almost reverently. The metal is still warm from friction and stress. He can feel vibration marks in the aluminum, physical evidence of 2 hours spent at the absolute limit of material endurance. Sergeant Henderson, he turns. A British RAF officer approaches, accompanied by photographers and what looks like an engineering team. Sir, I'm Wing Commander Patterson, RAF Engineering Corps. We've been following your aircraft's condition via radio. Patterson stares at the damaged wing, shakes his head slowly. I've been working with aircraft for 20 years. I need you to know. What you just did is aerodynamically impossible. That wing shouldn't have held, the aircraft shouldn't have flown, and yet here we are, sir. Patterson nods. Here you are indeed. Your pilot and crew will be recommended for commendations. But I wanted to speak with you specifically, Sergeant. You monitored that wing structure for over 2 hours, advised on airspeed, maneuvering limitations, landing procedures. Your mechanical knowledge kept this crew alive. Henderson glances back at his crew. Fisher is being helped out of his flight gear, barely able to move after 2 hours wrestling the controls. Wentworth is sitting on the ground, head in his hands. The gunners are smoking cigarettes with shaking hands, processing the fact that they survived. "I just watched it, sir. The wing did all the work." "The wing," Patterson says dryly, "is an inanimate object made of aluminum alloy. It doesn't work. It fails or it holds based on the loads we place upon it. You calculated those loads in real time, without instruments under combat conditions, and brought this aircraft home. That's not luck, Sergeant. That's skill. The photographers take pictures of the damaged wing from every angle. Tomorrow, these images will appear in newspapers across England and America. The All-American III will become famous. The B-17 that flew home with 11 feet of wing missing." But Henderson isn't thinking about fame. He's thinking about that crack in the main spar, the 3% of metal that refused to break, the miracle wrapped in engineering, wrapped in luck. He's thinking about how close they came, and how somehow, against every odd, 10 men get to go home tonight.